Welcome to the review, a mini episode from the Full Dive Gaming Podcast. In the review, we choose a single VR game, dive on into it, giving you all the details, and then a yay or nay on whether or not we think you should get it. This episode is Jay and Nat discussing the best VR platformer in existence, Astro Bot Rescue Mission.
This review is brought to you by Asterion Products. If you haven't checked them out by now, go on Amazon, search Asterion Aura, and use code FULLDIVE10 to save 10% on the best looking VR stand in existence. Jay, tell us about Astro Bot Rescue Mission.
I got to give a quick disclaimer for all of our people out there who are like, why haven't I heard of this game? What is this? This is unfortunately a PSVR exclusive game. This was made by Sony Studio, and it came out back in 2018. And for those of you who have played Moss or Lucky's Tale and you know kind of what a VR platformer is like, Astro Bot is like the perfect example of a VR platformer. You're in the game, but you're seeing Astro Bot from a third person perspective. You're controlling Astro as they're trying to rescue all their friends, rebuild their mothership, and get all your other little Astrobots. The cool thing about it is, even though you're a third person perspective, you are actually a character in the game. So sometimes you'll see a mirror, or sometimes Astro will be swimming and you can swim up to your face and he'll get stuck to your face. So you feel like you're a part of this game. There's even parts you have to assist Astro by headbutting. And it's got all the elements of a normal platformer. So if you're not familiar with the word platformer, think Mario 64 or what's something that was made in the last 20 years that's also a platformer that's in 3D?
Donkey
Spyro,
Kong?
that's still old.
I know
I've
they
not
have
played
newer Donkey Kong games.
I just haven't played platformers in a long time. It's not that I don't like them, but a lot of them are like 2D side scrollers, so I just can't think of any off the top of my head. But
when I think of platformer, I think like Super Mario, like the 2D ones is what I think of.
Yeah, it's kind of like that, but it's in 3D. Obviously, you're in VR. You've got Astro who can run and jump, and he has little jets on his feet. So when you jump, you have like an extended jump you can do, can punch and spin and fight and all these things. You move Astrobot yourself, but as you move Astrobot, the camera follows through these levels that are pretty linear. They're pretty much a straight path through the level, and you are trying to look up and down and left and right and listen for your little buddies who are somewhere hidden throughout the level. You have to try and rescue 8 of them in each level on your way through. So there's 8 of them per level. There's 4 levels and a boss in each world for a total of 5 worlds. Now, I have finished the game. I played through all the challenge missions, everything. I've fully completed it. Nat, how far have you gotten in Astrobot?
Oh, I think I only got through World 2. I've played a little bit since you finished it. I played a little bit in the like 3rd and 4th worlds, but I was trying to actually remember where I'd left off, so I accidentally ended up playing a couple levels in the worlds I hadn't gotten to yet, because I was going to just go through it as if it hadn't been finished yet.
Well, and for an earlier VR game, it actually has some length to it too, is another reason why a lot of people didn't beat it. It's about 7 hours if you're going to play through the whole main campaign. And that's if you're decent at platforming games. It could be a lot longer, but then it's about 13 hours if you want to play through all that, do all the challenge missions, get all the gold. So 13, 15 hours for a completionist. And it is still to this day one of my most cherished VR games, even though it's a PSVR exclusive, even though it's a little older. It is an absolutely gorgeous game with an adorable little character that you fall in love with throughout. It's kind of like for the people who have played Moss out there, you get this bond with Moss. But Astrobot, for some reason, is even way more dear to my heart. Super cute. If you stop, leave your controller, and you're waiting for a second, you're thinking about something, he'll turn around and wave at you. Or if you wait too long, he'll pop a PSVR on his head and start playing a game while he's waiting for you to continue playing.
Love it.
I mean, the game is not terribly difficult. It is a little challenging finding all your buddies, but it's a platformer in that, you can fall off and die and it restarts part of the level, but there's no game overs. There's no number of lives. It is a friendly game in that way. It's the game's single player, but did you know it was actually supposed to be a co-op game originally?
I did not know that. That is very surprising. I guess I could see how that could be, because like you said in the beginning, you are like this like big robot thing that's helping the little Astrobot. I think maybe even when we saw the trailer originally, I might have assumed that it was a co-op game. I'm trying to like put myself back in the mindset of like 5 years ago. But yeah, is there a reason they didn't do that? Did they just run out of time or something?
It was just too involved and it was too big. So originally, for those of you out there, if you have heard of this or you have a PS5 and you played Astro's Playroom, these are all from the same series of games. There was a game called the VR Playroom. So any Playroom game is basically something that Sony makes to help you learn about their new technology, to play and have fun. So there was a Playroom when the PlayStation camera came out back in the day. There was a Playroom for VR. Astro's Playroom is for PS5 to feel the triggers and everything. On the VR Playroom, there was one single mission of this game. It was a proof of concept of Astro Bot Rescue Mission, and it was co-op. One person controlled Astro Bot and ran around looking for the friends and fighting the enemies. The other drove a little cart through the level that they flew up above, and they would have to help coordinate and cooperate with Astro Bot to get through the level.
Oh my gosh, I think that's what I was actually thinking of when I was thinking of like the trailer or something. I think I was thinking about that.
Another thing about this game that is unusual as far as a VR game goes is you're holding a DualShock controller, but it is tracked in the game. So inside the game, sometimes your controller will become a water gun that you need to spray water at plants to make them grow for Astro to climb them, or it'll become a mini gun so that you're shooting enemies down. But also at any point in the game, if there's an enemy flying in an Astro and you're not in a position to jump and have Astro hit it, you can smack it with your controller and kill the enemy to help protect
Okay, I kind of
Astro.
forgot about that.
There's a lot of really cool Easter eggs and unusual things about this game. This is one of the only games I've ever seen where it has you hold up a dandelion to your face in the game, and then you have to physically blow out of your real life mouth to blow all the leaves off of it to then advance the level.
I love that.
Yeah, so many things like that you just never see in another VR game that absolutely convinces you that this is one of the best VR games, and still to this day, one of the best ways to show off VR, because it just does things other VR games don't do.
It's so true. I just really feel like even just the early VR games on the PSVR did such a good job of bringing everything possible into the VR experience. Even we were showing someone, this is a little off topic, but we were showing someone recently the PSVR Worlds, and they have things like that where like you blow like on something and it does stuff or whatever. Anyway, it's so awesome that they incorporated all of this stuff into it, and you don't really see that, sadly, in newer games. Even the newer games on PSVR, you kind of lose some of that magic. I think some of it is just, game developers aren't thinking about that stuff, because I think the ones were like specific to PSVR where they brought those things in. But oh my gosh, if you have a chance to play this game, you really see like the potential of all that could be brought in with all the things they bring in. Like you said, the controller having all these things that it does. There's even a mechanic where you like use the little touchpad that's, not used that much in PlayStation games at all. Use the little touchpad to fling out a little like cord that your little Astrobot can walk on, or you can use it to like pull things down for Astrobot to go through. And it's so immersive. It's so cool that you never forget that you are like this bigger bot that's helping Astrobot in the game, because it brings those things in where you're like, oh yeah, like I can headbutt something, or I'm here like bringing a little cord across so Astrobot can walk through and get to this higher space. And it's just I love it so much.
And enemies are shooting at you too. It's not just Astro. There's things that'll spit basically what looks like gum onto your face and block part of your vision from the VR lenses, and you're trying to not let that happen. You're trying to fight these things off. It does a great job. There's some of you out there that are probably like, this is an old game, it's PSVR only. Why are we talking about this? There is the main reason I wanted to bring this game up is because PSVR 2, we keep hearing more and more about it coming. There's supposed to be another announcement this next week about it. And I'm truly hoping they bundle an Astrobot 2 as the launch title with the PSVR 2 to show off all of its capabilities. Nothing quite shows off what Sony's tech can do like Sony. Like just like with the PS5, you play Astro's Playroom and you feel those DualSense triggers and those haptics, and it really shows you all of how good this controller can be. And we need that for PSVR 2. It's going to have these headset haptics. It's going to have these adaptive triggers. We need it to show off what it can do in the first thing to convince people why PSVR 2 can still be relevant against wireless, low-priced headsets like the Quest 2.
Right. I have to say really quick before we move on to some other stuff about Astro Bot in particular, playing Astro's Playroom on the PS5, I just wished for it to be in VR because I feel like everything with the DualSense controller just really lends itself to VR. And oh my gosh, I, like you, am very much hoping for an Astro Bot 2 in VR. Oh, it'll be amazing.
And the game is gorgeous. You can't believe you're in a PSVR when you're playing Astro Bot Rescue Mission because it looks so good that it actually looked better than like the original Rift and things I play on too. When you're playing that game, the colors and the vibrancy with the OLED screen. The music is something people bring up a lot.
Oh, that is so true. The music is amazing. That's another thing. It like brings all, I seriously almost get teary-eyed sometimes playing it because it just has, it's like a nostalgic feeling, even though it's not something actually from your childhood. It brings like all those feelings of childhood flooding back. It's like this amazing platformer. It has these amazing songs that just feel, they're just fun. They really capture all the feel of each different area. They have water levels, they have like forest levels and carnival levels, and it all, the music just goes with it so well. It just feels like all the magic of childhood, but with this new way of playing video games, and it's truly amazing. It really is.
Now we're singing some strong praises, but the game is 4 years old almost in VR. It is on a PSVR. So what are some things about it that haven't aged as well or don't feel as good when you play it?
Yeah, it is. I did actually notice, because I did go back and play a little bit to remind myself before we sat down to talk about it. And I do, even though PSVR was like Sony was really cared about making sure no one had any motion sickness or anything like that, I do have a little bit of motion sickness in this game, even though I actually don't now have much motion sickness with VR games because I played so much over the years. But there are certain moments, especially when you're like looking down really far, the way that it has you in it, it's like you're kind of stationary. And Astrobot, just like you said, like in games like Moss, you're here in the stationary position and your little character that you're controlling is moving around, and that's kind of weird for me sometimes. It's like, okay, I'm making this thing move around, but I'm not moving around. It's kind of messing me up. And sometimes you're like up really high looking down, and it's like kind of not great. It didn't happen in every area, but in certain spots it definitely comes up a bit.
Yeah, and there is one interesting mechanic about the game. So as you're progressing through this level, it's usually linear to the front. You follow Astrobot as Astro goes forward. But if for some reason you realize, oh, there's something behind me I forgot to get, you cannot move backwards again. You have to physically turn around and try to navigate Astro from where you're sitting without ever moving backwards.
Yeah.
So maybe they did that because they didn't want, the sickness of you jittering back and forth and stuff. But there's definitely times where you're like, oh no, I know I missed a guy, one of the 8, and I don't want to redo the whole level just to find him. And I kind of hear him, I kind of know where he is, but it's too far away for me to get back there. And there's been times where I've like stood up and walked backwards across the room to try to see what's going on behind me, because it does let you physically move in the space. So yeah, that's another little downside.
That can be really frustrating. I hope that's something they would fix. That also kind of makes me think of the movement also is a little bit weird at times because, again, you're stationary and you're moving a little guy around. It can almost feel kind of like when we first got like analog sticks in games, and it just felt like games like Spyro or like those kind of early 3D games. It was like your character didn't quite go where you thought it should be going. And you kind of feel that a little bit in this because sometimes it's because it's like far away or like you can't see quite where it's going. And so it just feels kind of off sometimes, but the game does kind of help you out. It's like if you're not quite there, it helps you out a lot. But I definitely found myself falling sometimes and I was like, But I think those were really the only downsides for this game for me.
Well, everybody out there, I mean, we've been singing its praises this whole time. I'm pretty sure it's clearly going to be a yay from both of us. So I'm going to up the ante a little bit on our usual yay or nay, because most people don't have a PSVR. Is it worth it still to find a PSVR just to play Astrobot? So that is the yay or nay question. Are you ready?
I feel like... Wait. I feel like before just a little bit, I have to say, can we talk a little bit about the water levels really quick before we go into the yay or nay?
Yeah.
Because I feel like water levels are some of the most amazing levels in most games, but the water levels, and I know you love water levels too, and maybe you can talk about your thoughts with the water levels in this game because they are so amazing. How did you feel on the
beautiful. They're not awkward like, you know, in old games like we were talking about, like Mario, you got in a water level and it was so hard. Water levels in this they seem so fluid, they work so well, and they are absolutely gorgeous. The way they do the audio underwater is really cool.
Oh, yes.
You pop up out of the water in one level and there's seaweed stuck to your head that you're shaking around, and you can see it in your peripheral vision up above you. You see it in a mirror and stuff. Yeah, and you can even see your character has like a snorkel on. Yeah, the water levels are phenomenal. There's so many moments in this game that are like, wow, I remember, like, that's the moment in VR when I felt this way or saw this or experienced this. This game just did so much with VR that there's got to be another one coming with PSVR 2. There just has to.
Sure. It truly, I feel, is a magical experience.
You ready?
Okay, I'm ready.
3, 2, 1. Yay!
Yes. I mean, yay.
Yay. And remember, in case you skipped ahead or something, this is not our usual should you get the game or not. This is should you go find a PSVR just to play this game. And for me, that's a hesitant yay because, you know, I'm not advocating go pay $300 or whatever they're still charging for a PSVR. But if you have a friend who has a PSVR, if you have a PS4 and you can find a PSVR used for $150, I would get it just to experience Astro Bot because it is that good. I'm making big promises here, but it is something that does things that other VR games just don't do.
Yeah.
You play it and you go, wow, this is a special game. Yes. This is different. So I would absolutely recommend anyone who truly loves VR finds a way to play this game because it might change your perspective on VR even this many years into it.
I really agree. I feel the same. Like I wouldn't say go spend $300 to even have new PSVRs that you can buy now.
They've actually been sold out due to COVID a lot, but I think you can still buy a bundle for like $300 or $350, which is a lot now for that when you can get a Quest for way less.
I would not say spend $300, but like you said, if you could, you know, get something on a really good deal, or like if you have a friend or something, I would say for sure, definitely check this game out. Even though, again, it's old, like it still looks amazing. It is so beautiful. It's so like, I get a little angry in games if I'm not doing well. Like if I get to a point where I have to do it over and over and over, which sometimes happens to me. I would call myself a gamer, but I'm not like a good gamer or an expert gamer by any means. But even so, if I get into those moments, the overall experience of this game is so relaxing. And I seriously, in the game, sometimes I get teary-eyed because it is so gorgeous and it just feels so good to play. It's, yes, highly recommend. Yeah. You feel like you're on vacation. It's crazy.
Well, if you're out there and you've ever played Astro Bot or you have more questions about it, come join our Discord. Tell us what you think. I would love to hear if someone goes out and gets it after this, finds a way to play it. I would love to hear their thoughts on it because everyone I've talked to thinks this is the most delightful, beautiful game. I'm sure there's someone out there who doesn't think that. So I'd love to hear your thoughts. If you haven't seen us before, you haven't heard us before, we have full podcast episodes that are coming out several times a month. So make sure and check those out. And Nat, what do they got to do when it comes to VR?
Dive on in.
Thanks, everyone.